I met Lisa the way you meet people in real life, not through some whirlwind story, but just one of those everyday coincidences that end up meaning everything. It was at a friend's birthday dinner, the kind where half the table knows each other and the rest are complete strangers. She sat across from me, wearing a dark green dress, and the kind of smile that made people lean in when she talked. Confident, witty, sharp in conversation without ever being harsh. I was taken in from the start. We ended up walking the long way back to the parking lot after dinner, just the two of us. I offered to walk her to her car, but we kept talking for another 20 minutes just standing on the sidewalk. She asked for my number before I could ask for hers. I liked that about her right away. She never waited to be chosen. She just made things happen. We started dating a few weeks later, and it didn't take long before we were spending most of our time together. Dinners out turned into cooking at each other's places. Weekend plans started feeling incomplete if we weren't making them together. We moved in after a year and got married the year after that. Now, 8 years in, we live in a 2-story house on a quiet street just outside of town. For bedrooms, a fenced yard, the usual signs of a settled life. I work in construction management, long hours sometimes, but I enjoy it. Lisa works part-time at a boutique a few days a week, which gives her the flexibility she always wanted with Emma, our daughter. Emma's 7. All energy and questions, with a wild imagination and a love for sketching people she knows, though she always draws me with giant eyebrows and Lisa with star earrings, even when she's not wearing them. Our nightly routine has become one of my favorite parts of the day. Dinner around 6, bath time by 7:30, and a rotation of reading duties that Emma insists she controls. Sometimes she reads to us. Sometimes we read to her. Sometimes she just makes up stories completely out of order, and we pretend to be confused. Lisa and I share things evenly at home. She plans most of our social life, family birthdays, weekend brunches, the occasional neighborhood thing. I take care of the yard, the bills, the house maintenance. We've each found our rhythm. We still have our movie nights, our inside jokes, our go-to-takeout orders for when neither of us feels like cooking. My younger brother Ryan comes by occasionally. He lives a couple towns over, works in operations at one of my sites, which I helped him get into a few years back. He and Lisa always got along fine, nothing particularly deep, but friendly. He's good with Emma, and she always gets excited when he shows up with his goofy uncle energy and little surprise gifts. Our life isn't flashy or perfect, but it's good. It's full. And for a long time, it's felt like we've been exactly where we're supposed to be. One of the things I've always appreciated about life with Lisa is how steady it feels. We're not a dramatic couple. We don't do grand gestures or post curated highlights on social media. We just move through the day together, dividing up responsibilities, meeting in the middle when one of us is tired or stretched thin, picking up the slack without keeping score. A typical weekday starts early. I'm usually up around 6 o'clock, coffee already brewing while I check emails before the rest of the house stirs. Lisa comes down a little later in her robe, rubbing sleep from her eyes, usually asking if I remembered to pack Emma's lunch, which I almost always do, even if I have to throw it together last minute. Emma's a slow riser, so getting her out the door for school requires a bit of patience, and sometimes a little bribery in the form of a mini muffin or chocolate milk. Once the morning rush passes, the house settles. I head into the city or check in remotely with the site crew, depending on the day. Lisa takes care of things on her end, errands, housework, and a few shifts a week at the boutique. It's a local spot, tucked in the corner of an old brick building downtown. She likes the atmosphere, the slower pace, the creative window displays she gets to help design. Evenings are where we really sync up again. Dinner's usually a joint effort. Lisa's a better cook, but I've got a handle on the grill and anything involving pasta. We eat at the table together, no devices. That's something we agreed on early and stuck with. Emma does most of the talking, filling the space with stories about her teacher, her friends, or whatever wild dream she had the night before. Lisa's great at keeping her engaged, asking questions, listening with her full attention. She's always been that way, and I admire it. We don't go out much during the week. Occasionally we'll have someone over for wine and a movie or spend time at my brother Ryan's place or their parents'. Ryan and I have gotten closer over the years, especially since I brought him into the company. He was between jobs and a bit lost for a while, and I was in a position to help him out. He's turned things around, and I've been proud to watch him step up. Lisa's always been polite with him, friendly, never overly involved. It never struck me as anything worth thinking twice about. Weekends are a mix of chores, catch-up, and downtime. Emma has dance on Saturdays. We do a grocery run, hit the park, maybe take a drive out to her parents' place if something's going on. Sundays are quieter, pancakes in the morning, some yard work, laundry in the afternoon. It's not thrilling, but it's real. It's ours. It's the kind of life I used to hope for back when I wasn't sure if I'd ever settle down. And in all the small, quiet ways that matter, I believed we were happy. By the time we hit our 8th anniversary, I remember thinking how solid everything felt. Not perfect, no marriage is, but settled in a good way. The kind of quiet you grow into, the way two people gradually stop needing to explain themselves so much. Lisa and I had our rhythms down. I knew how she took her coffee. She knew I couldn't stand when the towels were folded unevenly. We bickered sometimes, usually about little things like thermostat settings or forgetting to take out the trash, but it never lingered. We always circled back. One thing Lisa was especially good at was keeping us socially connected. She organized Emma's birthday parties with precision and flair, handwritten invitations, color themes, little gift bags that somehow didn't feel generic. She coordinated weekends with her parents, kept in touch with my family, even managed to convince me to host a couple of game nights with our neighbors, which turned out better than I'd expected. She had that energy, could step into any room and immediately figure out how to make it more comfortable. Emma adored her. Still does. She's in that stage where she wants to do everything her mom does, wear her jewelry, use her shampoo, mimic her expressions. It's both funny and a little surreal to watch. Lisa's incredibly patient with her, too. No matter how tired she is, she makes time to sit with her after school, go over her drawings, or help her build something out of blocks or cardboard. I always thought that's where Lisa really shined, in the small, unseen moments of motherhood. And as for us, me and Lisa, we still had our closeness. It wasn't loud or intense, but it was familiar. We held hands at the grocery store. She still curled up beside me when we watched TV. She'd reach over and fix my collar before we left for a dinner or laugh when I completely forgot someone's name at a party. Our relationship had become one of shared glances and comfortable silences. And I never thought that was a bad thing. I thought it meant we knew each other deeply. Even our anniversary that year was low-key by design. We got a babysitter for Emma, went out to dinner at a little Italian place Lisa had picked out. Nothing flashy. Just good food, quiet music, and a bottle of red wine that took us through an entire meal and long conversation about how far we'd come since our wedding. I remember thinking, as we drove home that night, we've made it past the hard part. We've settled into something real. I remember she leaned her head against the car window and said, "I'm really happy right now." I reached across the center console and took her hand, and she squeezed it once, softly. And in that moment, I believed her. It started small, the way these things usually do. Not with a bombshell or a dramatic change, but with quiet, barely noticeable differences in how Lisa moved through our shared life. At first, I didn't think much of it. We were both busy, me with work, her with Emma and the house, the shop she picked up more shifts at. But looking back now, I can pinpoint when the air started to shift. She started going out more. Not a lot, nothing that screamed anything obvious, but enough to notice. At first, it was late afternoon errands that stretched into dinner. Then it became evening catch-ups with a friend from high school I'd never heard her mention before. A few times she said she was heading to her mom's place but didn't answer when I called, texting me back hours later with a vague, "Sorry, lost track of time." I brushed it off. We all need space, right? I trusted her. I had no reason not to. But that space started to feel calculated, like she was creating it, the kind that didn't invite me in. She began carrying her phone with her everywhere, into the bathroom, into the laundry room, even just moving around the house. That wasn't like her. Lisa used to leave her phone plugged in on the counter for hours, barely touching it. Now, it was always in her hand or face down on the table. I didn't go through it. I didn't want to be that guy. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tempted. She changed her hair one week, got a new cut and color without mentioning it beforehand. Lisa's always liked looking good, sure, but this was different. She came home from the salon glowing, almost jittery. I complimented her, and she gave me a distracted smile, like my reaction didn't quite register. Later that night, I asked if she wanted to sit and watch something together like we usually did. She said she was tired and went to bed early. But when I walked past our room an hour later, I saw light slipping through the crack under the door. Her voice, soft, speaking on the phone. She said it was her mom, that they'd had something important to talk about. But the tone I'd heard didn't sound like a daughter talking to her mother. It sounded lighter, like someone trying to sound like nothing was wrong. I didn't say anything. What was there to say? And that's the part that's been bothering me most lately. Not what I know, but what I don't. The way uncertainty sneaks into your thoughts, even when you're trying to be rational. Even when you've trusted someone for years. You start noticing the time between text replies. The way they hesitate before answering a simple question. The moments they used to lean toward you, and now lean away. Maybe it's stress. Maybe it's nothing. But something about Lisa doesn't feel like Lisa lately. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't starting to wonder why. There's a strange kind of loneliness that creeps in when you start feeling like a guest in your own marriage. I wouldn't have been able to describe it a few months ago, but lately, it's like I've been watching Lisa through a window I didn't even know was there. She's still here, moving through the same rooms, sharing the same meals, but something about her feels removed. Like she's playing a part she isn't connected to anymore. She's been out more than usual. At first it was easy to rationalize. More shifts at the boutique, errands, lunch with her mom or one of the other school moms. But the explanations are starting to repeat, and when I really think about it, I can't remember the last time she mentioned a specific name. It's always just a friend or someone from the store. I used to know her schedule without even trying. Now I feel like I'm guessing. One night last week, she came home late, nearly 10:30. Said she stayed to help a coworker with a late inventory update. She smelled different. Not perfume, exactly, just something that didn't match the boutique's usual lavender and linen scent. I didn't ask questions. I nodded, made a joke about her joining the night shift, and she laughed, but didn't touch me when she passed. Just headed upstairs to shower. I've started noticing how often she's on her phone when she thinks I'm not looking. Quick glances, screen tilted away from me. She used to show me funny texts or scroll through photos with me at night. Now, she closes apps the moment I walk into the room. Again, nothing definite. Just moments. Gaps. Things that don't feel like they used to. Ryan's been around more lately too. He'll swing by on a Sunday afternoon, say he was just in the area, and Lisa will light up like it's the highlight of her day. She's always been friendly with him, sure, but there's an ease between them now that wasn't there before. Maybe I'm reading into it. Maybe I've been too quiet, too tired from work, and she's just found a new way to enjoy the company of someone familiar. I hate that I'm even thinking that way. The other night, we were getting ready for bed, and I asked if she wanted to go out this weekend. Just the two of us. Something simple. Dinner, maybe a movie. She hesitated. Said she'd have to check with her schedule at the store. That maybe her mom was expecting her to stop by. There was no real reason, just layers of vague possibilities. She kissed my cheek, climbed into bed, and turned away from me before the lights were even out. It's not that anything's broken, at least not visibly, but I can feel something slipping. Like a door is half open somewhere in our house, and I'm the only one who notices the draft. I haven't asked her about it. I haven't followed her, or checked her phone, or tried to play detective. But the way she looks at me now, it's not the way she used to. And I'm starting to wonder if she sees me at all anymore. It's strange, the way silence can say so much. Lisa and I still speak, of course, about groceries, Emma's school forms, what bills are due. But the words feel like they're skating across the surface of something much deeper we're both avoiding. She hasn't done anything obvious. There's no smoking gun. But the feeling hasn't gone away. If anything, it's gotten harder to ignore. There are stretches of the day where she's just gone. Not physically, always, but emotionally. Checked out. She'll nod along when I talk about work, but rarely asks questions. She'll laugh at something Emma says, but drift off mid-conversation. Even when we're sitting side by side on the couch, I feel like she's somewhere else. She keeps her phone close now, even during dinner. I've caught her texting under the table. She says it's her mom, or something at the store, but there's always a reason, and it's never one I feel invited to question. Emma doesn't seem to notice anything, and I'm grateful for that. She's her usual self, talkative, curious, glued to her art projects. But I can tell Lisa's become more protective of her time alone with her. The other day, I offered to take Emma to her friend's birthday party, and Lisa insisted on going instead. Said she already promised. Said I should take a break. It came out smooth, easy, even kind. But there was something in her voice that didn't feel like a suggestion. Ryan dropped by again last weekend. He brought Emma a small puzzle set just because, and she lit up when he walked in. Lisa offered him a drink before I even said hello, and the three of us sat in the kitchen for about an hour. The two of them had an easy back and forth. Joking. Shared looks. At one point I realized I wasn't really part of the conversation anymore. I just sat there, listening, nodding, drinking water from a glass I no longer remembered filling. I told myself afterward that I was overthinking, that siblings-in-law can be close, that a laugh isn't a confession. But I'm watching more closely now, not because I want to catch something, but because I'm tired of pretending I don't see what's right in front of me. Last night, after she went to bed early again, I stayed downstairs and scrolled through our old photos. Vacations, birthdays, random selfies from the couch. I stared at a picture from our 5th anniversary, her in a blue dress, my arm around her waist. We looked solid, uncomplicated. I remember that night. I remember believing we were unshakable. And now? I don't know. I feel like I'm circling something I don't want to admit. But it's there, waiting. And part of me wonders how long it's been. I've been keeping quiet, but inside, I feel like I'm pacing a cage. Not because I'm angry, at least not yet, but because I no longer know what version of reality I'm standing in. Lisa hasn't confessed anything. She hasn't changed her tone or started any fights. But every interaction lately feels like it's been filtered through something. There's a lag between what she says and how it lands. A performance. Like she's still playing the role of wife and mother, but somewhere behind her eyes, she's already left the room. This past week, she's been on her phone more than ever. I've caught her stepping outside to take calls in the driveway, pacing with her back to the house like she's suddenly concerned about signal strength. She'll come in smiling, like she wasn't just whispering for 10 minutes straight, and offer some vague explanation. Her mom had news, something about a friend's upcoming wedding, nothing to worry about. It's always nothing. And yet, I find myself rewinding her words in my head for hours afterward, trying to figure out why they don't sit right. The other night we were putting Emma to bed and Lisa said she had to run back out, something she forgot at the store. It was late, the kind of errand that could wait until morning. But she was already grabbing her keys before I could respond. "I'll be 20 minutes, she said, and kissed the top of Emma's head. I stood in the hallway holding a stuffed animal, wondering why I suddenly felt like someone standing in the wrong house, holding someone else's life. She was gone for almost an hour. When she came back, I was still sitting in the living room. Not because I was waiting. I told myself I wasn't, but because I couldn't sleep. She walked in with one small bag. Bananas. A frozen pizza. A bottle of wine. Things we didn't even need. She smiled like everything was normal, kissed my cheek, and said, "Thanks for handling bedtime." I stared at that bag after she went upstairs. It felt like a prop. Something staged. And then there's Ryan. He's called more in the last 2 weeks than he usually does in 2 months. Casual stuff, asking about site schedules, payroll questions he already knows the answers to. He came by on Tuesday, said he was just checking in. Lisa offered him a beer without looking at me. I watched them laugh about some show I've never seen her watch. I stood at the edge of the kitchen, realizing they have inside jokes now. Shared looks. A shorthand I'm not part of. I don't have proof of anything. No texts, no photos, no late-night confessions. Just a feeling. A deep, twisting feeling that something I've always trusted has started to rot at the foundation. And maybe it's in my head. Maybe I've just been tired, worn down, overworked. But I know my wife. Or at least I did. And lately, when I look at her, I feel like I'm staring at someone who knows something I don't and has no intention of telling me. It happened on a Saturday afternoon at a family party that I almost didn't want to go to. It was one of those bigger get-togethers at my cousin's house, grilled food, fold-out chairs in the yard, kids chasing each other barefoot through the grass. Lisa was already in a good mood before we got there, more upbeat than usual, dressed nicer than the occasion called for. She said she just felt like making an effort, and I didn't think much of it. I was mostly focused on Emma, trying to keep her occupied while navigating the same small talk I've been having with extended family for years. We were halfway through the afternoon, Lisa off somewhere chatting, me sitting on the edge of the patio with a lemonade, when Emma walked over and plopped down beside me, out of breath from running. She leaned against my arm and said, with her usual unfiltered honesty, "Mommy has 2 phones." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "She has another one. I saw it in her purse the other night when she thought I was sleeping." It lit up, and she looked at it fast, then hid it under the clothes. Emma took a sip from her juice box and looked up at me like she'd just told me something funny. But my stomach dropped. I tried to stay calm, tried to ask casually, "Are you sure, honey? Maybe it was her regular phone." She shook her head. "No, it was black and didn't have the pink case. It didn't even have a password." I touched it and it opened. It had videos. I didn't look, but I saw one said, "Ryan" at the top. I didn't speak. I couldn't. My mouth went dry. My ears were ringing. I nodded, swallowed hard, and said something like, "Thanks for telling me, sweetheart." She went back to playing like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just detonated my world in the most innocent way imaginable. I don't remember the next hour of that party. I don't remember saying goodbye. I just remember driving home on autopilot, Emma humming in the back seat, the words it had videos and Ryan playing in a loop in my head. When we got home, Lisa was still at the party, said she was staying to help clean up. I told Emma to go upstairs and wash up. Then I went into our bedroom and opened her closet. The purse was there, buried beneath scarves and a sweater she never wears. Inside it, just like Emma said, was a second phone. No case. No lock screen. It lit up the moment I pressed the side button. The silence in the room was deafening. I opened the messages first. There they were, texts to my brother. Dozens. Hundreds. Some flirtatious. Some obscene. Some timestamped during times I'd been in the next room. Photos. Voice messages. And then the videos. I watched maybe 5 seconds of one before I shut it off. That was enough. More than enough. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding the phone like it was something radioactive, trying to understand how someone could smile at you in the morning, kiss your child goodnight, and carry on a life like this beneath the surface. My wife. My brother. My home. All of it shattered. And in that moment, I knew exactly what I had to do next. When Lisa came home later that evening, she walked through the front door humming, setting her purse down like it was any other night. She didn't notice anything at first. The lights were dim, the kitchen quiet, and I was already in the living room waiting for her, calm, steady, holding her second phone on the table like a piece of evidence I had no intention of discussing. She didn't even have time to see it. I didn't say a word. I just stood up, walked past her, and locked the front door from the inside, new lock, one I'd changed 2 hours earlier. I pulled her keys off the hook and held them out, silent, daring her to ask why. Her smile faltered. Her face tightened. She opened her mouth to speak, but I stopped her with one sentence. "I know." That's all I said. Her eyes dropped to the phone on the table, and I watched the blood drain from her face. She didn't deny it, didn't ask what I meant. She just said, "You don't understand." And that was the last thing I needed to hear. I turned and walked upstairs without another word. She stood there, stunned, and I let her stay stunned while I packed her things. Every last bit. Her clothes, her jewelry, the gifts I had given her over the years. The anniversary necklace, the watch from our first Christmas as a couple, even the matching robe and slippers she wore on slow Sunday mornings. I boxed it all and set it outside the garage door. Then I sat at my laptop, opened the employee portal for my company, and removed Ryan's credentials. I didn't call him, didn't warn him, just opened the administrative panel and made it final. Termination, effective immediately. He worked for me. That job existed because I put him there. He had a decent salary, flexible hours, a team that respected him, all of it because I trusted him. Because I believed family meant something. And he traded that for a few nights behind my back with my wife. Lisa tried to come back in later, knocking first, then pleading. She said things like it was a mistake, and we didn't mean for it to happen, and don't make this worse than it already is. But the door stayed closed. I said nothing. That night, I texted her 3 words, "You're not welcome." She messaged again, called, even tried using Emma as leverage. She's still my daughter too. But I wasn't taking Emma away from her. I wasn't dragging her through this. Not yet. I was just making sure Lisa knew that her life, as she knew it, was over. Ryan tried calling too. A few vague texts. Then one message that simply said, "You don't understand the whole story." But I understood enough. I haven't answered either of them. I don't intend to. I've gone cold, yes, but not out of spite. Out of clarity. When people show you who they are and do it this brazenly, you don't negotiate with that. You sever the line. You shut the door. You remove the rot. And when you've been betrayed by blood and vows in the same breath, the only way forward is without them. The silence after it all ended was the loudest thing I'd ever experienced. I remember sitting on the edge of the bed one morning, maybe 3 days after Lisa was gone, with the whole house still dark and still. No sounds of her walking downstairs. No clatter of Emma's breakfast plates. Just stillness. And for the first time in weeks, maybe longer, I didn't feel the weight of pretending. The air was heavy, yes, but it was honest. That mattered more than I can explain. Lisa kept trying to reach out during those first few days. There were calls, voicemails, texts that went from defensive to desperate. She said things like, "We can fix this," and "Think about Emma." But I wasn't interested in the performance anymore. She'd lied with such ease, smiled at me while hiding everything, and then looked surprised when the ground finally crumbled beneath her feet. There's no fixing that. Not in a way that still respects what we had, what we were. I gave Emma the simplest explanation I could. I told her that Mommy was going to live somewhere else for a while, that sometimes adults break rules they can't unbreak, and that none of it was her fault. She asked a few questions. Then she just nodded and hugged me and said she liked when it was just the two of us watching cartoons anyway. I cried that night. Not out loud. Just quietly, alone, after she was asleep. Not because I missed Lisa, but because I hated that this was now part of Emma's story, too. The job gave me something to focus on. With Ryan gone, I had to shuffle the team, reassign some responsibilities. It was more work, but it grounded me. I kept my head down, drank my coffee in silence, and got through the days. And slowly, that silence started to feel less hollow and more clean. Like a space I could finally start painting again. That's when I met Mia. It wasn't romantic, not at first. She worked in a nearby office I consulted with occasionally, and we'd always exchanged a polite hello or small talk during meetings. But one afternoon, I stayed behind after a group lunch to pay the bill, and she waited with me. We talked for an hour without noticing. Nothing deep. Just easy. I hadn't felt easy in a long time. Over the next few weeks, we started grabbing coffee. No pressure, no flirtation, just conversation. Mia had a warmth to her, but also a groundedness. She didn't ask questions she didn't need the answers to. She didn't push when I said I'd been through something difficult. She just said, when you feel like talking, I'll listen and meant it. We're not rushing into anything. I told her from the start, my life is still shifting. I'm still stitching up holes. But she didn't flinch. And there's something about sitting across from someone who doesn't know the broken version of you, who doesn't look at you like a man holding rubble in his hands, that's healing in its own way. Now, the house is quieter, but it's mine. My routines, my choices, my peace. I've started reading again, making better dinners, laughing more with Emma, falling asleep without that heavy question mark sitting beside me. I still don't know what's next. But for the first time in a long time, I'm not scared of the future. And best of all, I know who I am again. Some days, it still catches me off guard, the quiet. The way the house feels after the noise of those months is hard to explain unless you've lived through something like it. There's no more guessing, no more second-guessing, no more running mental loops trying to solve a puzzle that was never mine to fix. The stillness used to feel like absence. Now, it feels like presence, my own. Lisa hasn't been back to the house since she took her things. She still tries occasionally emails, the occasional just wanted to check in message, but I've stayed firm. I'm polite, if I respond at all. Short, direct, unmoved. She lost the right to emotional access the moment she handed my trust to someone else, especially to my own brother. That part still stings if I think about it too long, so I don't. I've trained myself to let those thoughts pass like weather. They come, they go. They're not mine to carry anymore. Ryan tried reaching out once. Sent an email, not long after he was fired. The subject line just said, for what it's worth. I never opened it. I didn't need to. What could he say that wouldn't be too little, too late? He made his choice, just like she did. And I made mine. Emma is adjusting. Kids are resilient in ways adults forget how to be. She still asks about her mom, of course, and I never speak badly of Lisa to her. I won't do that. But I don't sugarcoat either. I tell her the truth in age-appropriate ways, and I show her every day what consistency, honesty, and calm look like. That's my job now. To protect her from the chaos I didn't see coming, and to make sure she never doubts where she stands with me. Mia's still around. We're taking things slow, like we said. No labels. No timelines. Just two people sharing time, space, and kindness. She's met Emma a couple of times. Nothing serious, just light introductions. She's good with her. Patient. Present. And I'm realizing now that love doesn't always come as a firestorm. Sometimes it's in the quiet acceptance of someone who isn't trying to rewrite you. Just sit with you as you are. I'm not bitter. That surprises even me sometimes. But I think it's because I lost something I thought I needed. Lisa, the marriage, the illusion of safety, and ended up finding something far better, clarity. Self-respect. A life that reflects who I am, not just what I was willing to endure. I look in the mirror now and don't see someone who was betrayed. I see someone who didn't break. And that's how this ends. Not with revenge or regret, but with me standing on my own 2 feet, looking forward instead of back. I was enough all along. They just weren't.